Good morning, everyone, for the fourth time this week, and welcome back once again to a pitch black Central European time zone morning, where I am going to do some gesture drawing of reptiles, something a bit out of the ordinary. And after that, let's take a look at some clothes drawing. And here we go. This is a small lizard looking off to the right. It has a bit of a funny face going on there. Sort of a ridge, and his forelegs were there. These are some sort of frogs, possibly toads. They look extremely wet, which I think is a diagnostic characteristic of toads. Toads are another group of animals that I am not actually very familiar with. So factual information about frogs and toads is not something you will find here. This is again some kind of a frog. It's got those extremely bulging eyes going on like a basilisk from Dark Souls. He even has a bit of his eyeball showing here. The weirdo. This is a typical large frog, possibly a bullfrog or something like that. If I were to imagine a bullfrog, I would imagine something that looks like this. Does not have bulging eye sockets, just has plain ones, but there are elevated ridges that his eyes are hidden under. Now this is a turtle. Not even a turtle. I think this is an actual water turtle. Another frog. I am not a particular friend to frogs, but this is again more on the side of fun and easy, as compared to the simians from yesterday, which were a little bit more stressful to draw. So for those in the audience looking for suggestions on what to gesture draw, it seems that smaller animals in general are probably a good idea. Once it starts looking too much like a human, you start getting into sort of stress reactions. This guy is wrapped up around himself. I think in 30 seconds, if I am fast, I was not fast enough to draw the curves. And this is lizard. He is being very flat, but also looking clearly up. And he has these very prominent brow ridges again. Seems to be a running theme for reptilians, or whatever the actual grouping of these animals are. Another snake. He is extremely curled up I'm going to not draw his face, I'm going to draw his body. This is an extremely long lizard. That sort of frog-looking legs. I don't know how to interpret that. Does that mean that he's somehow a different kind of lizard than the others? Who knows? Someone who knows about lizards, of course, but that's not me. So, those were the 30 seconds. Now getting into the 1 minute. This is a relatively large frog again, of the type that I would imagine that bullfrogs look like. With some exposed eye going on here. He does have some camouflage going on there, so what exactly is happening with his body back there is difficult to make out. He does sort of have a lip here. There's one clinging to the wall. I think it probably would be quite interesting to take a look at skeletons as well. Drawing these unusual to draw animals has made me think a lot about their anatomy. And of course, if they were skeletons instead of living animals, there might be some interesting tidbits to glean about their anatomy that way. Another sitting frog. He is sitting down, as I'm sure you've already identified by this point. Seems like his chest goes something like this. He does have the upper part of his chest showing, and the rest is the shoulder. Seems to start somewhere around here. Goes behind his knee a little bit, and then comes forward. Ah, good morning, pig. You're quite early today. This is the second to last 1 minute sketch. A lizard, some sort of black lizard. He's moving towards the camera, a bit of a dramatic angle here. Hmm. This isn't turning out particularly well. Well, the good thing about gesture drawing is that if I'm not having fun with this one, in 20 seconds there's going to be a new one. This, of course, can become a problem if you are not being successful at all and just keep getting more and more stressed out by the new drawings. on the scale of having an occasional whiff, it's more of a bonus than a malus. This is another no, this is a tortoise. This guy obviously has legs that are supposed to be used for standing up. There was a previous creature who I think was a turtle, because he had this, flapper-like legs instead of. This might even be a red ear turtle. When I was a child, we had turtles as pets for a while. They look a lot like this. So here we have then the 5 minutes. This is a snake, some sort of a cobra-like snake. He has his tail curved all the way back. By the time his body touches the ground, this sort of flap that he has already disappeared. So I am going to try to do this in one line. Draw his main body like this. And then this thing is going to appear along this length. And on the other side, because of his mostly because of his rotation, it appears somewhat later. And after that, his head, of course, turns up or turns towards the camera. Got a bit of a step here on the back of his neck, and the ridge connects with his mouth. It comes up something like this. And on the other side, goes like this. And then he has his face, which is barely visible. He has a mouth there, and he seems to have some sort of a, nose slits going on, but barely identifiable. He's got a generally a raised forehead more than a brow ridge like some of the reptilians did. You can tell where his eye is going to be, although it is not visible. And on this side, he does have his visible eye. So, then moving on, he turns this way, so there's quite a small pouch on this side. It does turn away quite aggressively. Since we are going to be drawing close later on, this is actually quite an interesting thing to draw. Since the snake is not round, he has a bit of a form to him. So you have to think of him as sort of a rope, like a sort of a rope structure. So you do have this curving cross section that does have a ridge on the top of it. One minute to go. Don't think this is I don't think I'm going to finish. We have the same phenomenon here. So we have the ridge visible here as the top part, and then again here the ridge is again the top part, but in the middle it is not. somewhere around here that it curves away, and then we see this side of the snake, and on the other side it appears works something like this. So it appears from behind the part that's folded over, and then we are seeing the other side of him. Then he would be doing the same thing once again, but the problem is that the absolute tail of his tip of his tail is again folded over and lies something like this. So, perfect in time. Second 5-minute sketch. This is a frog of some kind. Drawing sort of a approximate bounding box for him, since he is in a corner and he is leaning on the wall. He's got his hand stretched out like this, but fairly little of it is actually visible. His mouth is going to be around here. And he's got those Dark Souls Basilisk eye stalks again. Maybe he's a toad, maybe he's a bullfrog. Who knows? Part of the eye is visible, and then the other eye thing is entirely pointed towards us. He's got sort of a color change to his belly, so his the front part of his body has a different color than the rest of it. So I can use that as a border to give him some, volume here. And then he has a leg down. Shoulder is going to be somewhere around here. And his fingers are spread down here. They just look like sausages, so I can probably just draw them in like this without paying too much attention to it. Should be fine, as long as these are roughly the same size, of course. There's a bit of a fold there. Then I think that's where his shoulder goes. It's mostly a difference in his color. He doesn't really have a very well defined leg line going on there. And on this side, he's got a bit of a fold of white here as he's raising up his leg. And then got his fingers. Back here he's got his hind leg, and I think the border between his hind leg and his body is going to be something like this. He doesn't really have a border between his face and his main body. I think his head comes out something like this, and he's got sort of a hump back here. I'm then just going to combine with the back body here. Mm, 1 minute to go. I think I can get a sort of schematic view of this guy going on. No, a similar level of finishing as with the cobra-looking guy in the first in the previous photo. And then he has some sort of, you know, warts all over his side here. I wonder why. Maybe they have some sort of functional purpose for the frogs or toads or whichever creature this is. I'm fairly neutral on frogs myself, but I can easily see why some people would find them disgusting. So, the last one is another turtle. Yeah, I think this guy is a water turtle. And this is 10 minutes, so I have a lot more time to actually construct him out of lighter and more elegant lines. So, that's the approximate form of his shell. I'm going to make some visual measurements to have a vague idea where where his body parts are going to be. Here's his leg. And he's going to have a hind leg as well, of course. There's a very dark shadow, so I can't see exactly what the bottom of the shell is doing, but that's going to be good enough. His shell, his hind leg is difficult to make out. It does come out a little bit further. Mm. And I think there's a 4-digit here, behind here somewhere. Seems about right. You might have noticed me hesitating with the fingers there a bit. It was the classic error of trying to make it indistinct because I couldn't make out what was happening. And I caught myself doing it and made it a little bit more bold. Not particularly bold since I still didn't know exactly what was happening there, but at least bold enough that it looks like something instead of just looking like nothing and then not really being either correct or wrong. That's really the kind of thing that you should try to avoid for those trying to learn to draw. It's very easy to fall into this trap of kind of being afraid to make mistakes, I guess, where you don't know how to draw something, so you don't really make an aggressive effort. But of course, from a pedagogical standpoint, if you don't try, you can succeed. So try to do it, force yourself to try to do it, and if it doesn't work out, well, it's not that bad. I've got sort of a friendly eye going on here. although I would say that his the face shape of this, the angle of this eye does not easily lend itself to looking friendly. So I would have to do something in particular to make it look a bit friendlier, to keep the ambience of the image. But I can't think of how to do it immediately. Maybe towards the end, if I have time for, you know, last minute fixes. I think his shell might be damaged a little bit back here. That looks like it's broken off. Hmm. His shell has this levels of banding. That he has, of course, his underside. Then he has his side, and then he has these top plates. Interestingly, this line here curves down at the back and curves up at the front. That's something to pay attention to. And then thinking of him as planes, this area here is sort of, angled like this. Then he's got his belly side. I'm just going to put it like that. That's going to have to end up somewhere around here, I think. And there has to be a claw, and I think I can make out a claw, although this is quite dark. I think the rest of the claws are probably going to be down here, behind here somewhere. So that's this area is like this. And then you've got the dome. The dome is made up of very large segments. So he's got his I think it's 8 segments for the entire back. So he's got one here. Another one barely visible back there. So there's 2 of the 4. It's going to be something like this. Then he's got one in the back here. And the pair to this one is not visible because of the angle. He is slightly angled towards the camera, but not by all that much. We have a plate here. And then he has 2 plates along his back. Both of them have their counterparts on the other side of him, just barely visible. That's sort of I think he's got sort of a rich structure going on here, and that's the reason that the components behind him are visible. So something like this. The plate edges are a bit rounded, so I'm going to add this sort of sawtooth pattern to all of it. So then getting along to his the side of his armor, between, let's say here, this would be the end of the start of his actual side, and somewhere around here he has 4 plates again. So I can just halve this and halve this and halve this. then the geometry behind here starts getting more complicated. As this area is angled more up so that he can get his leg out of here. I'm going to have to raise the structure here a little bit so that it fits together. So this is a case of that I had done a more of a bold mistake. I had drawn boldly, but it does not fit. Everything does not fit together in the end. So at this point, I am going to not have time to erase anything. So I am just going to add in a couple of plates here. And under here is too dark. I can't make out what's happening. And that was 10 minutes. So that was the first session, just drawing reptiles.